The next thing we need to do is use JavaScript and AJAX to display the status of our registration request after our PHP script has processed it. Note that we have not yet created the actual PHP script. We'll do that in the next lesson. The PHP script will transmit a success code or error codes back to our register.php page. We'll use AJAX to interpret the codes and display a success or error message without the user having to refresh the page. You can see an example of this on the completed version of the web page. If we leave the fields empty and click register, we get an error message, first name is required. There are multiple error states and one success state. The validation will include the following. We'll check to see if the email address is already in the system. We'll make sure the first name and last name, email, and password fields are completed. We'll also check to make sure the email is in the right format. And you can see that as I complete each field, the error state changes. Once all the fields are completed, I can click the register button, an account will be processed, and we're taken back to the index page. So you'll notice that after the account is processed, we are redirected to another page. And so that's what we're trying to do here. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we'll need to do is move our jQuery.js file. It's actually located down here. We're going to have to bring that up into our head tag. And the reason we do this is because we need to load the jQuery library before the rest of the page loads in order for this to work. Now we can create our JavaScript code and use AJAX to communicate with our PHP script. And remember that we'll be creating the PHP script in the next lesson. I'll insert the JavaScript code. It's a bit lengthy, but I will explain exactly how it all works. And before I go through the script, remember that we gave each one of our form elements an ID. We gave the register button the ID register, the fname, the ID fname, and so on and so forth. You can see here that the first ID we've referenced is the register ID. The register ID was attached to the register button. So when the register button is clicked, you can see the on-click event, we store the values of fname, lname, email, and password. The values of those inputs are stored into 4 new variables: fname, lname, email, and password. We then use AJAX to transmit the values to our PHP script using the post method. And remember, with AJAX, this is all done behind the scenes. The PHP file that we'll be creating in the next lesson is called adduser.php. And here we've specified the data that we're transmitting, the first name, last name, email, and password. Once the data is submitted, the PHP script will validate it to make sure it meets the requirements we'd set out earlier. So the validation. The PHP script will output error codes or a success code depending on the results of the validation. For example, if the PHP script outputs the code true, so if HTML equals true, we've set an alert to appear with the text account processed. And you can see that that text will be contained within a div. The alert is displayed in a div with the ID add_error2. So we haven't created that yet. So let's go ahead and create this div, which will contain all our status messages. So that's what the status message looks like. So we'll need to scroll down, and it's located directly underneath the registration form heading. So I'll need to scroll down. Here it is. And you're going to add the following line of code directly below this. Okay, so that's where our error messages will be contained. So I'll scroll back up. Once the account is processed, we have a redirection. So the user will be redirected to the index page. Now let's say the account was not processed successfully. This could be due to a number of reasons. First, if the PHP script outputs the text false, it means that an email address already exists in the system. For this reason, we would output the message email address already exists. If on the other hand the PHP script outputs the text fname, this will mean that the first name field was left empty, and so we'll output the message first name is required. And it's the same for lname short, which means the email address was left empty, and pshort, which means the password was left empty. Format will mean that the email address was in the wrong format. Okay, and these are user-defined codes, so this is what we've decided to use in the PHP script. We could have set the error code to anything we wanted, but you'll see that in the next lesson. Now, lastly, we have an else statement that will display a general error message if the form was not processed, but the reason was unknown. So for example, if none of these reasons are applicable, we'll just display a general message. And this could be due to a number of factors such as connection issue and things like that. The before send function here displays the word loading while the form is being processed. And this typically takes only a fraction of a second, so sometimes you don't even see the loading text. Okay, and that's how the JavaScript works. In the next lesson, we're now going to create the PHP script.